when Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone win the track and field race. It's really not that big a deal anymore. She's been doing this ever since we first learned her name at the high school level. It's really only a story if she doesn't finish the race in front. But normally, that story is being told when she's running a 400-meter hurdle race. She did not run that this past weekend. At the LA Grand Prix, she ran a 200-meter dash, and she did it against some of the fastest women that we've seen in the entire world for the past few seasons. And she won in a race that was not really that close. At the time I'm recording this video, she's technically the second fastest woman in the world this year, only to McKenzie Long, who is still running in college for Ole Miss. But as far as I'm concerned, she might as well be the fastest because she ran into a slight minus headwind to go 22.07. And that was her first and probably only 200 of the season. McKenzie Long has been running the 200 now 9 times already, and she's only ran 22.03, and that was with a positive win behind her. I could continue to tell you all of the reasons why Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone is amazing, and I probably will do a little bit more of it, but that is not the only reason why we had to pay attention to the LA Grand Prix. Because remember, she had a field of women behind her, and it's crazy that I'm even saying this out loud, but some of them have very real plans of coming away with a medal at the Olympics later this year. I'm not saying that it's definitely not going to happen yet, but if your name is Abby Steiner or Gabby Thomas, the performance that we just witnessed is a little bit concerning, considering the Olympic trials is about a month away. The coach inside me does understand that they're not yet supposed to run the fastest times of the season yet. But just consider that if your only argument as to why they didn't run faster is because of where they are in their training, then explain to me, what is the excuse for all the ladies in college who were consistently fast both all the way through the indoor season and now through the outdoor season as well? Jameesia Ford for the University of South Carolina is still a freshman, and unless you're counting her prelim at the SECs, which I don't, she's never run slower than 22.58. Indoors or outdoors this entire season. So when I say watching these women lose to Sydney is a bit concerning, I'm not even taking shots at them, so much as I'm realizing they will have competition at the Olympic trials. And trust me, those college women are not traveling all the way out to Eugene, Oregon for the Olympic trials in order to lose. So if you want to keep them off the Olympic team, you're gonna have to crank up the speed incredibly soon. But if you're new here, I have to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best high school track and field recruits in the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comments section because I try to read them all. What Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone just did is an incredibly big deal, but the reason is because she was not supposed to do it in the first place. We know that she's incredibly talented because last year she ran the 400 and won the American Championship. Of course, she didn't ultimately run in the World Championships, and the primary reason was due to injury. So now we can say she's back, and she's apparently better than ever. For most of her career, it's been incredibly clear that you don't really get to race against Sydney. You get to run with her, but probably not race against her. In the 400 hurdles, it's basically been a foregone conclusion because she's been the world record holder, and nobody has ever given us a real reason to think she would ever lose. The only real way to explain what we're witnessing right now on the track is that Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone in the 400 hurdles is what Usain Bolt was in the 100 and the 200. The only way she can lose is she has to somehow show up as somebody less than herself. We already know that she's very good in the 400 and the 200. We've seen it all the way since her high school years. But she's never looked unbeatable in either of those races. So for Sydney to go out in a 200 against some of the best pros, we're talking about Abby Steiner, the American champion from 2022, and Gabby Thomas, the American champion and Olympic medalist, and world medalist for the record, in 2023, and beat them. That is a big deal. As far as Abby Steiner goes, I'm not saying that anything is definitely wrong with her. she might be exactly where she wants to be. She ran 22:32 into a slight minus headwind. That is not a bad performance. But I also know that where she wants to be right now is not behind Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone in a 200. She did win earlier this season in Bermuda in a time that was slower than this, so apparently she's going in the right direction on the clock. But remember, I also said she won in Bermuda, so she's not going in the right direction on the leaderboards right now. And believe it or not, Gabby Thomas is America's fastest woman in the 200. She has been since she left college, so it makes sense that she has been the best finishing woman in the World Championship events that we've seen as of late. If Sha'Carri Jackson wasn't running borderline world record times in the 200, Gabby Thomas would likely have a world gold already individually. And she did run 22:1 earlier this season, so she hasn't been slow ever since she's been outdoors. And Gabby Thomas does sometimes have an up and down experience during the middle part of the regular season, but she normally figures it out by the time she gets to the championship meets. But in track and field, and specifically sprinting, every time you step to the line, your reputation is on the line with it. So Gabby Thomas cannot afford to have races like this at the Olympic trials. Like I said, the college girls are going to put you out if that's all you're coming with. To be honest with you, if you really want to see an Olympic medal from an American woman in the 200, you're probably going to have to look at Sha'Carri Richardson if we're not getting it from the women I just mentioned. She was a world medalist in 2023 in that event, but in 2024, she has underachieved in the 200. She's not even ranked inside the top 50 on the world leaderboards. I'm not even going to try to tell you about whatever's going on with that. What I am going to say is that I have too much confidence in her talent to not consider her a real threat. But I'm also saying that in 2024, we've got no real evidence to go off of. You can call it blind faith if you want to, but she does have the hardware to back it up. The only reason she wasn't in the last Olympics is because of things that had nothing to do with whether or not she could win on the track. If you're asking me who I want on Team USA in the 200, the answer is clearly Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone at this very moment. I'd actually take her in the 400 as well, but it's not a legitimate answer for either of those events. So we've got to look at all the women who are behind her if we want to find a real answer. We know that Sydney's going to run the 400 hurdles, and we also know that the college girls are coming. McKenzie Long and Jameesia are not just the fastest women in college right now. They're two of the 5 fastest women in the world outdoors in the 200. McKenzie Long is still technically number 1. The Olympic trials are now technically about a month away, and I'm not officially saying that anything is wrong with Abby Steiner, Gabby Thomas, or Sha'Carri Richardson. But we know they are supposed to be the women who represent us in those events. Historically, they have been the best 200-meter performers from the last Olympics up until now. But it definitely does at least look like something's wrong when they're not in the front of a race that Sha'Carri Jackson isn't even in. So ready or not, the Olympic trials are coming soon. And if these ladies are going to make the team, then whatever has them in the back of the race right now is gonna have to change real quickly. Because if it doesn't, then we're gonna end up sending some college kids on a very long plane ride to Paris this summer. SCA track and field gear is here. Fast is a lifestyle, and what you wear should reflect that. Order yours at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.